We're in week 3 of this series, Oversharing. And we've been talking a lot about social media, right? And how it's affected our lives and how it tries to control our lives and how, we try to seek out validation in it. And we've talked through those things. It's no secret that social media is shaping our culture. It's shaping our country. It's shaping the world and how we interact and how we engage with other people. And that's the reality. And it feeds our need for validation, but it's a false validation. And it's given us this huge platform for which to share, but sometimes the things that we share aren't really things that we should be sharing. But anyway, it's crazy. I was thinking about social media and really the heart of social media, the heart of what it's at and our need for followers. I mean, that's really the reality. Social media is social. It's this need to connect with other people. We want followers, right? We want people who will follow us, right? And engage in our lives. We want to follow people and engage in their lives. Without followers on social media, it's kind of meaningless. I guess you're just watching videos and laughing at memes and stuff, right? But it's kind of meaningless. And so we desire to connect with people. As much as we can with as many people that we can. And so at the base of it is we all want followers. We all want followers in our lives. Now, this has become such a huge thing in our culture today that you can even, I don't know if you know this or not, but people actually buy more followers. Did you know that's a thing? People can buy followers on social media. Like people are dropping $2,000 to get more followers. I'm like, what? Like spend your money on something else. Like it's just crazy to me. And most of the time it's celebrities or, it's these businesses that are trying to make it look like they're bigger than they actually are. Or it's just people that have too much money they don't know what to do with, right? And so they're spending money on followers. And these followers that they're spending money on, guess what? They're not real. They're fake followers. I was looking at these statistics the other day. I was reading an article on this. And it said on Twitter, there are 7.2 million fake followers. 7.2 million accounts that people have that it looks like they're being followed, but there's nothing there. There's no engagement. There's no interaction. It's just a number that says, hey, these people follow me. On Facebook, 60 million. 60 million fake followers, fake accounts. And it blows my mind that this is what we've come to, that we desire followers so much that number is so important to us, that validation, that false validation is so important that we will make that number as big as we want, no matter how we can do it. In the same article, it was saying that, what we've begun to realize in our culture as social media has taken the world by storm is that the amount of followers isn't nearly as important as the engaged followers. To put it simply, 100 engaged followers are worth more than 1,000 fake followers. Now, this is true on social media, right? We don't just want a giant number of 1,000 people that it says they follow us, but they don't actually engage us. They aren't actually posting anything. There's no connection with them. So it happens for us on social media, but I think this is also true in our lives as we are followers of Jesus Christ. You see, today, what I want to look at, and really the question that I want you to ask yourself and to think about this whole time today, as I talk to you guys, as we dive into God's word, this is the question, and it's this: am I a fake Jesus follower, or am I an engaged Jesus follower? Am I just a number? Am I just someone who is showing up and just, am I there, or am I actually getting engaged in the things that Jesus calls me to get engaged in? Are you a fake follower, or are you an engaged follower? The research group Barna, they do all kinds of research. A lot of times they do it on Christianity. In 2016, they did some research on Christianity, and it came up to say that 73% of people in America call themselves Christians. 73%. Listen, you and I both know that ain't true, because if 73% of people in America were Christians today, this nation would be in a lot better place than it currently is. 73%. I don't think so. Now, it goes on to say, of that 73%, 33% of them actually engage in their faith. 33%. Now, that number sounds a little bit more realistic, right? 33%, but this was the measurement that they based it off of, okay? An engaged Jesus follower, this is their measurement, goes to church at least one time a month. That's what they're considering an engaged Jesus follower. I'm thinking, I don't know about that, because I look at Scripture, I look at Jesus, I look at the church, which was the bride of Christ, which he died for. And if we're going to be engaged in Jesus' mission, we want to engage his bride. We want to be engaged in the mission of the church. And so, man, many people identify themselves as followers. But sadly, today, there are more fake Christians than there are engaged Jesus followers. Now, I want to unpack that today with you. I want to unpack what it looks like, what it means to be an engaged Jesus follower. But let's pray, and then we'll dive into this. God, thank you so much for this morning. Thank you just for the amazing time of worship that we just got to experience. Thank you for these people. God, I know that each of us, right here, right now, man, we're dealing with things. And we could have chose to stay at home, stay in bed. But we chose to come and to worship you and to be in your presence, God, and to find hope and to find peace and to find joy in you and to connect with other people, God. So I thank you that we are able to do that this morning, that you've given us that freedom. Right now, God, I pray that we would allow your word to saturate our spirits. God, speak through me. Allow me to be your vessel. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. So following is good. We want to be followers, but engagement is better. I was thinking about this with my kids. I have kids, and I was thinking about, what would it look like if all I did with my kids was just follow them? They'd probably die. Anyway, seriously, that's the case. If I never engaged, if I never did anything to intervene, there's no telling what would happen. I'm not just walking around following my kids and just hoping that they make the right choice, or hoping that they do the right thing, or hoping that they don't get hurt. I'm engaging in what they are engaging in. And I was thinking about just the kids for me. My kids aren't just going to follow me around, right? They don't just want to, well, sometimes they do and it's annoying. But most of the time that's just because they want food. But they don't just want to just follow me to follow me. No, my kids follow me because they want to engage in what I'm doing. They want to be a part of my life. They enjoy doing the things that I do, so much so that they'll do chores without even knowing it, right? So last year, me and my kids went out, there was tons of leaves. And so me and my kids went, I made them this time. I said, hey, come help me rake the leaves. Well, we went out there and we had an amazing time, and they wanted to keep doing it. We filled up 9 bags. I'm like, keep going at it, guys. And I just sat on the side. But they were raking leaves. And so this year, the leaves were falling, and Shawnee kept looking out the window, and he's like, Daddy, there's leaves. Let's go rake them. Let's go rake. And he wanted to engage in the things that I'm engaged in. Just recently, we painted one of our fences. And, they loved it. They had such a blast. And they didn't just want to watch me do it. They want to be a part of it. They're constantly asking me, can I go do that with you? Can I go there with you? Can I be a part of what you're doing? They're not just following me to follow me. They want to be engaged in what I'm doing, especially when I'm playing video games, right? Or like any kind of card game. They don't just want to watch me play. They want to be a part of it. Same is true for us and our kids. We take our kids to the park all the time. And, I'm constantly following them with my eyes, right? And I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's really exhausting to count to 8 every couple seconds. Just making sure that they're all there, and sometimes they're not. But more than that, I'll let them go and they'll play, and then I'll join in. I don't just follow them and just sit there and do nothing and never engage in what they're doing. I join in on the fun, right? I go and help, and I push on the swing, or I run up and down the stairs and go down the slide with them and play tag with them or whatever. I engage in what they're doing. But I think more importantly, if I see one of my kids, especially the younger ones, if they're trying something that I've never seen them try before, or maybe they shouldn't be trying, I engage in that moment. And I either help them out or I say, stop, don't do that. It's going to end up badly. Or maybe they try something and they fall and they get hurt. I'm not just okay, they're hurt. No, I engage in their life. I engage in what they are doing. You see, following Jesus, being an engaged follower means engaging others in whatever is going on in their life. And it's especially true when it comes to engaging not yet Christians, those who have not yet embraced Jesus in their life. We want to be engaged followers of Jesus. That is what we want to do. I want to share this with you, and I want you to write it down. Engage Jesus followers, engage the not yets. Engage Jesus followers, engage the not yets. Engaging the not yets is actually one of our values. And what it says is that we will do anything short of sin to make sure that those who are far from Christ come to know Christ, embrace Jesus in their lives. We want to engage those who are not yet Christians. And that's what engaged Jesus followers do. They engaged, those who are hurting, those who are broken, those who are walking through this life without Jesus as their guide. We engage them and we help them get introduced to Jesus. And this was something that we talked about last week. Last week we shared the story of the Good Samaritan, right? And we had two of the guys, they just kind of walked by and saw what was going on, right? But we had one guy who engaged. And what did he do? Man, he served with his talents. He sacrificed his time. He gave of his treasures. He got engaged in this man's life. You see, engaged Jesus followers, here's what they do. They really just go after it in that way. Engaged Jesus followers, they attend church regularly. You look up the definition of regularly. It's something that is a constant defined pattern. It's something that happens often. They attend church. They serve. They get involved. They become what the scriptures say, the hands and feet of Jesus Christ, becoming moment makers. You look around here, when you show up, there are so many people who are engaged in the mission of the church. Engaged Jesus followers engage other Jesus followers, right? We desire connection. We desire community. We desire accountability and prayer. We engage one another. We do this a lot here on Sundays, but we also have our connect groups as well, right? Where we get together during the week and we laugh and we eat. And, sometimes we cry and we pray, right? And we engage one another. Engaged Jesus followers also, they engage God on a daily basis. Engage him in his word. They're talking to him. They're communicating to him. They're engaging him, and they're looking for him for guidance in their life. Engaged Jesus followers support the mission of the church, the local church. Engaged Jesus followers, they share their faith. They share their faith, and they share their faith in many ways. And I think engaged Jesus followers will share their faith just by walking into a room, because your joy, your peace, the hope that you have, it should be apparent in just the way that you move, in the way that you act, in the way that you react. People should see it before you say a word, right? That there's something different about them. You see, all of these things that I just talked about, you want to know what they require? They require obedience. Being obedient to Jesus' call to follow him. One of the distinguishable marks of an engaged Jesus follower is obedience. You guys can write that down if you want. This is it. Just, one mark of an engaged Jesus follower, it's obedience. It's obedience. And that's something that we all need in our lives to be able. It's one thing to say, yes, I follow you. But it's another thing to say, yes, I will go where you say. I will do what you're asking. In 1 John chapter 2, it kind of hints towards this. Verse 3, it says this: we can be sure that we know God if we obey his commands. Anyone who says, I know God, but does not obey God's commands is a liar, and the truth is not in that person. But if someone obeys God's teaching, then in that person, God's love has truly reached its goal. This is how we can be sure that we are living in God. Whoever says that he lives in God must live as Jesus lived. So we're to obey. We're to do the things that we're called to do. But I think that last line, to live as Jesus lived. Now you read about this guy. You hear about the things that he did, the sacrifice that he made. Those are some big sandals to fill, right? To live as Jesus lived. You see, following Jesus means engaging in the mission of Jesus. You look at Jesus' mission. You look at what he did. You look at where he went. He was constantly going after the lost, the hurting, the broken, healing there and praying here and doing things for others. That was his mission. And as followers of him, that's what we need to do. Jesus went above and beyond to reach the lost, the hurting, and the broken, right? To engage the not yets. He wasn't taking it easy. He didn't choose the easy route. Jesus was obedient to his very last breath, right? And his greatest act of obedience was displayed for us on the cross. So he took his mission all the way to his death. And that's what you and I are called to. But then he goes even further, right? Because he was resurrected. And after his resurrection, what he does? He goes to his disciples and he challenges the disciples, which again, the challenge is for us, because if we're Christ followers, then we are his disciples. And he challenges them and he says, here's what I need you to do. Right? Matthew 28:19. I need you to go. I need you to share your faith. I need you to go and I need you to make disciples of all nations, all the earth. Go. That is our call, to go, to share. And the question becomes, if we want to be engaged Jesus followers, we have to be obedient. So are you obedient in the challenge to share your faith? Are you being obedient? Have you been obedient? Because he's going to tell you to share your faith in ways that you wouldn't think. He's going to ask you to get uncomfortable. He's going to put you into uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable conversations. Anytime I think about sharing faith, I think about fishing, right? And I think it's because, as you read through the New Testament, you see a lot of fishing analogies in there. And so there's, it's a big part of their culture that day. A lot of the disciples were fishermen. So I think about fishing. Any fishers in there? Any of you guys like fishing? Cool. There's a couple of you. I do not. My boys want to go, so I got this, Walmart special, and I use it. It's an amazing little tool. So anyway, fishing. But anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. So I'm not a fisher. So if I mess any of these fishing up, my bad. Give me some grace, okay? Because I'm not a big fisher. So the disciples were fishermen, and I think it's a big part of who we are as Christ followers as well. And actually, one of the first interactions that Jesus had with his disciples, you want to know what they were doing? Anyone guess? They were fishing, right? They were fishing. Let's check it out. Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. It says, one day, as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them and said, come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people. And what they do, they left their nets at once. And they followed him. So these guys, they're expert fishers, right? And then Jesus says, hey, that looks like fun. Why don't you stop what you're doing and let's go fish for people? And they're like, yeah, let's go do that. That sounds awesome. And they might have been thinking it was going to be like, let's get somebody. But no, Jesus was talking about something completely different. He says, follow me. Let's go fishing. You see, the disciples, as the scripture just said, they were fishing with nets. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But the nets, and I was reading about what this looked like in their culture, in their context, right? And for these fishermen, this was difficult. It wasn't easy. It was a very, very hard job to do. And they did it year round. They did it in the heat of summer. They did it in the cold of winter. They did it oftentimes at night. And the nets that they had, they had to make them. They had to mend them. They had to make sure that every night they dried them out or they would rot. And so they constantly having to make sure that all of their gear is ready for them to be fishers. And they were using these nets. So it was difficult. And I always wonder, why did Jesus choose fishermen? Why did he choose a bunch of fishermen to be disciples, to start the early church? And I started thinking about just, their job and what they did. This was a hardy group of guys who were accustomed to difficult work and long hours. They were willing to do whatever it took to make sure that they could bring in their catch, right? And I think when it comes to sharing our faith, for those guys as well, when it comes to starting the early church, sharing required the same care, the same dedication, the same skill as fishing. Doing what it takes, doing the difficult tasks, never giving up. You see, it's going to be difficult. Jesus, being a follower of Jesus, being an engaged follower of Jesus is going to be difficult. And guess what? The work will never be done. At least not until every single person on this planet has embraced Jesus in their life. The work will not be done. You see, an engaged Jesus follower's work is difficult and it's never done. And I think we need to realize that. Because some days we want to take it easy. Some days we don't want to, kind of step into the prompting that Jesus has called us to. You see, being an engaged Jesus follower, it says this, it's taking on the role of fishing for people. It's taking on the role of sharing your faith. It's being obedient when Christ calls you to share. Another story in Luke 5, verse 4, it says, when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish. And here's his response. It says, Master, Simon replied, We worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. Remember, these guys are fishermen. They are experts. This is what they do every single day. So when he says that they worked hard, that they already tried everything, he means it. He's like, we did everything that we know to do to catch fish here. But he says, and this is where the obedience comes in. He says, but if you say so, Jesus, if you tell me to, I'm gonna drop my nets down again. I'm gonna cast them one more time. And this time it says their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. And then they called over some other friends, the other boat, and soon both boats were so filled that they were both on the verge of sinking. When we are obedient to Jesus' call to share our faith, man, it'll bring in a catch that we weren't even prepared for. But we got to be obedient. You see, these expert fishermen, man, they were coming up short. They were getting nothing. But Jesus says, hey, listen, I know you've been working hard. I know you've been doing this to share your faith. I know you've been, working here and talking to this person. And he says, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try again? Really what he says to you, don't give up. He says, keep going after it. Yeah, he says you gotta go, you gotta share. If you say that you follow Jesus, that's awesome. The next thing that you gotta do is you gotta be obedient to Jesus when he says go and to share. When he says, hey, I need you to go talk to your coworker today, who's right there because they're hurting and they're broken and they need someone to pray for them. I need you to engage in a conversation with the person behind you at the restaurant. See what's going on in their life. See where they're at. Man, talk to them about your life, about how God has entered your life and what God has done in your life. I need you to reach out to your neighbor one more time. Just go check on them. Because today may be the day that they say yes to you and ultimately say yes to Jesus. One more time. One more invite. One more time to share. One more time to throw out, to cast the nets so that people can come in and man, experience Jesus in their life. A lot of times we say, well, I've tried everything. I've tried everything, God. I've talked to him blue in the face to my family member. And I've shared my testimony. I've shared my story. I've told them about all the awesome things that you're doing in my life and at my church. But they're just not biting. He says, just try it again. Don't give up. Keep trying. Keep sharing. Keep going after it. I was thinking about this. Last year we started launching this thing, Kairos Church. We've only been meeting now for 6 months, but we started our launch back in January of last year. And around this time, March, April, we started doing events. We started reaching out and networking with people in our community and just letting them know, hey, here's what we got going on. Here's our launch plan. Here's what we're trying to do. And we reached out to so many people and we networked so many people. We did coffee things and dessert things and barbecue things. And, through that, we just connected with a lot of people. And I remember just being consistent. I remember being constant and just letting people know, hey, here's what we got going on. Here's what's happening. Here's what God is doing. We'd love you to be a part of it. We'd love you to come check it out. I remember doing that and, with the amount of context that I had, like feeling kind of disheartened when they didn't all show up. 2 months would go by and people that I invested in wouldn't show up. 6 months would go by. Same thing. I'm still investing. I'm still, reaching out to them and nothing. But then, because I didn't stop, because I didn't give up, because I kept going after it, almost a year later, some of those people are currently attending and serving in our church because I was willing to be consistent and constant in sharing and not giving up. And when Jesus said, hey, I need you to reach out to this person, send them a Facebook message, call them on the phone, go have coffee with them, because this time is the time when they're going to be like, yes, I want to be a part of that. I want to embrace Jesus in my life. When we're constant, when we're consistent, when we're engaged in the lives of others, man, we will be able to bring them into a faith that is amazing. You see, engaged Jesus followers answer the prompting to share. They just answer it. Whenever, wherever, no matter what. And you guys know, if you're a Christ follower, you know that time when you're sitting there, you're sitting somewhere and you see somebody, there's something inside you that says, hey, go talk to that person. Go share with that person. A lot of times we're like, I'm too busy. I got too much going on. Or maybe it's someone that we've already talked to and we say, not right now. Many times we ignore the prompting. We just move on with our lives. I've done it. I've done it many times, and I've regretted it. Jesus, being an engaged Jesus follower is being obedient to go after those people and to tell them all that God is doing in your life. So, will you be engaged? Are you willing to cast the net? Are you willing to share your face when, where, and however? This past week, I was at Starbucks, and I'm realizing now that a lot of times my stories start with, I was at Starbucks. I'm sorry, y'all. Just pray for me. So I was at Starbucks, and I was doing some work, and I was drinking lots of coffee. Anyway, and I went to get a refill, and the barista, took my order, and she said, "Hey, I like your beer." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate that." And then as I turned, I looked, and I saw another gentleman back over here, and he kind of smiled at me and kind of nodded, like in agreement with what the girl just said. And the guy looked familiar. I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And so I got my coffee, and I was like, I feel like I need to go talk to this guy. And so I did it. I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" I wanted to know why he was laughing about my beard, to be honest. But I said, "Hey man, what's going on? How's it going?" I'm like, do I know you? I'm like, I feel like I know you. I'm like, do you go to my church? Is it something that, that I just see you in here? And we began talking, and I told him that I was a pastor in there, because I asked about, like, do you go to my, just the easiest way. You don't even know somebody, be like, "I recognize you. Do you maybe go to my church?" "Oh, you don't? Oh, well, you should come to my church." And so there you go. You can use that one. But then I just told him, I said, "Yeah, I'm a pastor, and so I thought I recognized you from my church. We're one of my, because we do events, we do the Winter Haven Market, we do other things, so I may have seen him." And so I shared with him just about our story, about Kairos, and about everything that's going on. I asked him, if he lived in the area, what he did in the area and stuff like that. And so he works over at Legoland, and hopefully he'll give me tickets. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so we were just sharing and talking. And, I said, "I'd love to have you come check it out," because I don't think he went to a church anywhere. He said he hadn't gone in a while. And so I grabbed a card, I handed him the card, and said, "Love to see you." And that was it. And here's what I texted my wife later, and this is what I said. I go, "My beard is the greatest evangelism tool I've ever possessed," right? It's the greatest thing for sharing my faith. Because here's why. There are people, the dude back here playing guitar, John, you in here, man? I kid you not. What was our first conversation about? That's right. That's right. And he's here, he's playing guitar, and it's awesome. And here's what I realized, that I said, if someone asks me about my beard, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell them about my faith, right? That's what I'm going to do. And so here's what engaged Jesus followers do. Engaged Jesus followers, they grow out their beard and they tell people about Jesus, all right? That's how it works. So, ladies, you might want to start taking some testosterone pills and get some beards going. All right. So, yeah, you ladies start walking in the beards next week. I'm going to pray for y'all. So here's the reality. We can't all grow epic beards, right? But each of us has been given unique tools, unique giftings. God has wired us a specific way. And we do have something to offer. We do have something to share, to tell people about. We can use our time, our talents, and our treasures to engage other people. But we also have equipped you with other tools in which you can share your faith. And so I wonder, will you use the tools? Will you get engaged in using the tools? I was thinking about, just how we share and the things that we do at Kairos. We get a little radical on some of the stuff that we do, right? And it's almost to the point to where, like, people begin questioning us and questioning what we're doing and the things that we're doing and where we're willing to spend money. We did an event called Sunday Fun Day. Anyone there for Sunday Fun Day back in January? So it was an awesome day. We just wanted to come together and just get to hang out after service as a community. So we grilled out, and we had bounce houses, and we had obstacle courses, and we had cotton candy, and it was a great time. But, through all that, we shared about the event. We wanted people to know. So we had invite cards we were handing out. We had yard signs that we put out. We did some stuff on social media. And there was something on social media, and somebody commented on there. And the comment was this: "Where is God in all of this? Where's God in all of this?" Now, my flesh wanted to say one thing, but I didn't. And so I read that and I processed that. I'm like, where's God? Like, instantly I thought, God is in everything that we do, number one. He's in everything that we do at our church. That's what I'll share with you. But the thing about it is that our church, as a church, because that day was huge for us, it was awesome. As our church, we were willing to share. We were willing to get engaged with not yets in our community. Do you know that on that day, on Sunday Fun Day, 4 people began a relationship with Jesus Christ? You want to ask me? Yeah. Where's God? That's where God is. That's where. You see, we do all these things, all these fun things, so that people can come into our doors and hear the life-changing message of Jesus Christ. That's why. That's what we're doing. And here's what I've come to realize. Being in ministry for the last 10 years, I believe this with all my heart. God is all for fun and life change. Fun and life change. I mean, he is the creator. Absolutely. He's the creator of fun. He's the creator of joy. He's all for it, especially when it leads someone to Jesus Christ. He's all for doing whatever it takes to engage those who have not yet embraced him. And that's what we're all about. We're all about fun. We're all about life change. We're all about engaging the not yets in our community. You see, we do some of these things. We do this egg thing where we're egging the city, right? And we do invite cards, and we do yard signs, and we do mailers, and we do stuff on social media, and we do a ball pit diving bunny, right? Because we are hoping and praying that it'll bring people in here and they will get to hear the life-changing message of Jesus Christ. That's why we do it all. And all of it requires our generosity. And we know, because what's what we learned last week, our generosity can affect someone else's eternity. And we believe that wholeheartedly. God is all for fun and life change. And I was thinking about just the amount of people that have come to our church and embraced Jesus in their life, and I looked it up, and we have had 33 people begin a relationship with Jesus Christ since we started our church. 33 people in 6 months. That's amazing. That's amazing. And yes, you want to know what? Giving away Legoland tickets, bringing in snow, and Buddy the Elf, and cooking out burgers, and doing cotton candy, all of those things played a part in that. And we're going to go after it. And that's what we're going to keep doing so that we can help people begin a relationship with Jesus Christ. You see, it's more about why we're sharing than what we're sharing. See, I'm not too concerned about how they get here. I'm more concerned about how they leave. You see, I want them to come in here and leave differently than when they came in. I want them to experience Jesus and give their life to Jesus and find new hope and new purpose in him. That's what I want. And I will do anything, just like our value says, I will do anything short of sin to make that happen because I believe in it, because I'm willing to go after it, because I'm willing to work for it. And when we are all in that together, when we are all willing to be engaged Jesus followers, when we have a greater impact together. We all do our part. We all use our tools and our talents and our giftings to reach others. And when we do that, man, we can reach so many more people for Jesus. And here we're going to go back to the fishing analogy, right? Just like the disciples. What were they fishing with? They were fishing with nets. Now I was thinking about this. We want to fish with nets, not just poles. Because I have a pole. And how many fish can I catch with one pole? One, right? One. And so I can cast it out and I can catch. I can cast it out and I can catch. I can keep doing it. I'm not very good at it, so it probably won't happen all the time. But I can cast and I can catch and I can cast and I can catch. And this is good. It's good to do that. It's good to do this one, but check this out. And I've never done this before, and I was watching videos, and it's nuts, right? But this is the net, and one of our guys actually had one of these, and I was shocked that he did because I didn't know people did this. But you check this out. Now watch how many people I'm going to catch with this one. I'm just kidding. I have no idea how to use this thing. But you can just see. If you've ever seen them do this, then they throw this thing out, they let it drop, and they pull it in. And I watched a whole boat of guys pull in, and they had thousands of fish. Thousands of people that we can reach when we are all casting our nets. And here's what I want to tell you. When it comes to casting our nets, here's what this looks like. Because we have many different things and many different tools that we can use. So we can cast a line where we say, I'm going to share my personal story. I'm going to share what God has done. So we have one line. And I'm going to take the city thing, and I'm just going to start throwing eggs everywhere, right? And I'm going to egg this city. And I'm going to take an invite card, and I'm going to be specific about handing it to somebody or leaving it somewhere so someone finds it. I'm going to go on social media, and I'm going to share there. And you know what it's doing? We don't have just one line. We have multiple lines going in different directions. And then when each and every one of us have multiple lines going in different, what do you got? You got a net. You got a net. You got a net so large that we're covering this community and reaching people for Jesus and bringing them in here so that they can embrace him in their life. See, I cast, you cast, we all cast, and we can reach people for Jesus. Man, it's going to multiply exponentially. That's what it looks like. We're all doing our part. We're all casting our nets. We're all doing everything we can to make sure that people can come to know Jesus. And here's the last thing I want you to know is this, that when Jesus followers share their faith, more people come to know Jesus. It's that simple. It's that simple. While as simple as to say that, it's a lot harder to be obedient when Jesus calls us to it. It requires obedience. You see, these guys, they fish with nets. And this is what it said in Luke 5:6-7. It says, their nets were so full, began to tear. That's what I want to see. I don't know about you, but I want to see as many people in our community embrace Jesus as I possibly can when I have my life here on this earth. That's what I want to do. I want to go after it. I want to reach people for the gospel of Jesus. So let's do all that we can to bring in the catch. And then once we bring it in, let's celebrate that Jesus has transformed their lives, because we can't transform it. Only he can. So we got to do everything we can to introduce people to him. We're all called to be Jesus followers. We're all called to be fishers of men. So let's do that. Let's be engaged, net casting fishers and followers of Jesus.